Okay. Um, so I will say this one more time here for the recording that today's practice, it is helpful to have two blocks and a strap. So if you want to pause and go get that, or if you're just joining here live, go grab those things. They'll be beneficial for our practice today. And other than that, if you don't have those things, there's lots of ways to adapt and really just make this feel good to you. That is the whole point of the practice. So I'm a little bit inspired today by Pema Chodron in our topic, which is about embracing the unknown. I was thinking about last year at this time, and what I themed in end of August last year was tending to transitions. And I feel like this transitional phase is for some of us in the world is a back to school time, and in my case, it's we said goodbye to my son again as he went back to college, and there is something about really being inside of the transitional spaces that actually just asks us to step into the unknown spaces within us. And I also shared on social media this week that I had a really interesting dream, and I'll speak about it really briefly, which is that I had a dream this week in which I felt like I kind of went back in time and I visited an older version of myself. If any of you ever had an experience like that, and it was just this kind of juxtaposition of, well, that's who I was, and I don't feel like I can go back. And I have some sense of who I'm becoming, but that's still yet unfolding. And this experience of kind of standing between past and future, and that experience of myself of kind of shaping it as I go, right? Really, that's all we get to do is shape our lives as we go. We can't really predict the future, and maybe sometimes we get a sense of that quality of living in the unknown or living in a little bit of limbo a little bit more than others, especially when big changes happen, wanted changes or unwanted changes. Yeah. So many of you know that just a few weeks ago, I published the post-traumatic growth card deck, and many of you have ordered it, and thank you. And you've been sharing with me pictures of you with your deck, which makes me really happy. And if you've ordered it and it's still on its way, it will get there. I keep looking in the little shipping boxes that I have of on the internet, and I don't literally ship them. I have a fulfillment center that sends them out, but I can see them in transit, so I know they're on their way. But I chose a card for this week that for me is really about the phase of embracing the unknown as part of this journey. And the name of that card is think I gotta find it. I should have pulled it out before. There's a lot of them. There's 54 cards, and they're really pretty. And of course, it's the very last one. So the last one in my pile here. So the one that I chose for today is called Living in Limbo. And it's probably a familiar image for any of you that know my photography. It is, and if any of you have walked around this lake with me, it is the mountains over Boulder being reflected, and there's just these perfect moments that often happen out there where you can really sense the in-between and the reflections, and in this particular day the clouds that were kind of obscuring the long view, and allowing us to just see only what we can see right now, only what we can see, right? So here's the reading for that card. Living in limbo, you stand in the transitional space between the person you have been and the person you are becoming. This can feel unsettling, indeterminate, and undefined. You cannot see what lies ahead. You might feel frightened in the midst of change. However, transitional spaces are full of potential. That feeling of uncertainty is actually getting you ready for an updated version of yourself and your life. You may feel as though life is pulling you backward, but like the arrow held in the bow, life is actually preparing you to fly forward. What or who helps you trust the unknown? What or who helps you trust the unknown? I will share with you that for me, yoga is essential in that journey. Absolutely essential. There is something about the relative predictability of the breath, of that little, rectangle that I get on every day, and my body and movement in space that allows me to be in the moment and then be in the moment and just deeply trust. I have paired today's class with 3 poems. They're short, and they are all by Victoria Erickson. And I'll put a little link to Victoria Erickson's poetry and website into the chat or in the comments if you're watching this later. So to start here, darling, stand tall inside the discomfort of change. Let it wash over you. Drink the water. Eat the salt. Tell your body it's better than fine. You are being cleansed and renewed, and you'll love the new horizon. But for now, you must trust the moods of waves. Second one. It's okay that you don't know how it will happen quite yet. The momentum is in place. The river is moving. The charge is alive. This constant unfolding, stay with it. Stay in it. Part 3. Don't reach for the answers at this time. They'll eventually arrive, and when they do, they'll be soft. Much like an old friend stepping back into our lives, as though they'd never actually been gone at all. Let's take those words with us, and I'll invite you to come onto your mat if you're not there already. I'm going to transition onto mine, and I look forward to diving into some movement and breath together. I'll say one last time, if you are just joining, great to have a strap as well as blocks today. So I've set some intentions for our time today, and the intentions are to perhaps embrace the unknown, however that is relevant to you right now. Right? And to some degree, as I said, we all have the unknown that sits ahead of us, and sometimes it's more apparent that is the case than others. The second intention is I am held by the unseen. I am held by the unseen, and there's something, of course, very visible and seen and tangible as we step onto the yoga mat and being held by this practice, but perhaps also sensing into that which is less tangible, but still quite present that holds us. And as you arrive to your practice, the breath is our first invitation inward. So beginning to just sense the movement of your breath. Perhaps also the movement of the mind. What has been stirred in your day, in your night, how you slept, what you dreamt last night. And see if you can invite your mind onto the breath. You might add a slight audible quality to the breath, that gentle constriction of the muscles in the throat, the whisper muscles, creating the ujjayi pranayama that has a wave-like quality. If that breath is new to you, you can imagine fogging a mirror and then taking that same quality in and out the nose. This oceanic breath begins to sound like waves coming toward and away from the shore. And if you'd like, bringing your hands together, just giving a little bit of gentle touch, palm to palm. And then sweeping hands across your forehead, your cheeks, greeting your earlobes, giving your ears some love. Maybe sweeping along the front of your neck, the sides of your neck, the back of your neck, the base of your skull. A little self-massage to start. And greeting your skin. You can bring hands to shoulders, down to elbows. Just welcoming yourself just as you are. And then back to the breath. The breath will be our anchor again and again. And from here, beginning to take some movement. So I'll invite you to come into some revolving ujjayi. And what that means is that we'll take that ujjayi pranayama, inhaling forward, exhaling back. Many of you have done this with me before. Simple movement. And allow yourself to really continue to feel that wave quality of the breath. In and out as you come back. Finding your pace and rhythm. And then let's take it the other direction. Warming up, waking up from the inside out. If it's at the end of your day, settling in. One more this way. And then lengthening here. And I'll invite you to take your strap in your hands. So it doesn't matter, I have a little loop on mine, but we don't really need that actually at all. So you can just begin to take your strap and take it wide enough in your arms that you can actually take your arms all the way behind and all the way forward without cranking into your shoulders. So it's a nice wide hold. And just allow yourself to begin to move through your shoulders with the strap, and we'll even combine it a little bit with a seated cat-cow. So allowing yourself to lengthen your spine, arms can come back and around. And as your arms come forward, you can round a little bit here as well. can allow a sigh, a sound. And then I'll invite you to just to find a little bit of free movement with your strap. That might be side to side. That might be lowering one arm all the way down. It can be bending and re-lengthening. Let's see how a little bit of that resistance that the strap offers helps us to explore into some new spaces. You might even move in a little bit more of a circular movement once again. Breathing into the chest, the shoulders. You can round all the way forward. Beautiful. And then next invitation is to take the strap. I'm going to take it in my right hand and then just bending at the elbow, taking your left hand around, back, and behind. You can turn the palm back so that as you come back, it's nice and easy to catch the strap. And now some of you might be able to take hand to hand behind your back. What I love about the strap is that it just gives us lots of space in here for the shoulders. And you might even just lean your head a little bit side to side or forward at an angle. So these shapes aren't about achieving anything. They're more exploratory and helping you meet those sticky spots with love. And then we'll just switch that out. So taking strap in your left hand, up and around, behind. Right hand, palm faces back, reaching back and taking a hold of that strap. Nice wide grip for today. And this side for me has a different story to tell. How about you? This is my left shoulder is my tight shoulder. So, it feels good to get in there. What are you noticing? What or who helps you go toward these sticky spots, right? How do the subtle movements of your chin or the placement of your head and neck change what's happening in your shoulders and arms and back? You can really feel into that connective tissue, the fascia, throughout that whole region. Send your breath there. And then when you feel even on both sides, letting that strap go for a moment. And an invitation just to rotate your shoulders one direction and the other. You can shake them up and down if you like. Move your jaw around, let a sound out, and let that go. We're going to come into the lower body. So leaning back, again, for many of you, this is a familiar set of movements. If you've practiced with me before, we're going to take right foot around the ankle, one direction, just about 5 times, and we go the other way. These are short, sweet joint rotations, and they're so beneficial. We've got a nice balance practice today, so it's going to be good for when we get up on our feet. Let's go ahead and go with the shin around the knee, one direction, taking it the other way. And then a little bit of hip rotation here. Hands can support your leg, going a few times in each direction. And then we're going to go into something a little bit different. So from here, I'm going to invite you to take your strap and either with a loop or just kind of, get your foot placed in in the strap and then just hold the 2 sides. And then just let your leg be kind of hammocked in the strap. So you can hold on to the strap and your knee can be bent, or you might begin to explore lengthening your leg. Now we've got our little go-go gadget arms. If that's a reference point for you, you've got an extra length here with the strap. So you might experiment with letting your entire leg be hammocked by the strap and just kind of holding on here with your hand. You can swing your leg a little bit out to the side. And if you prefer to have your knee bent, great, right? So really make this yours. And you can take your right leg out to the right. You might also explore coming through center, switching hands on the strap, and then crossing midline. You might even open your right arm, look out towards the right as your right leg crosses toward the left. And then we'll do that again side to side, opening to the right. You can even open your left arm out, turn your gaze to the left, crossing midline, and then turning towards the right. And one more time. Coming back to your breath. Beautiful. And through center, let's go ahead and take your right leg out of the strap, and we'll switch that out. So left foot around your ankle, one direction, and the other way. And shin. And the other way. And then some gentle circles through your hip, both directions. And then we get our strap. Again, you can just kind of loop it around there, hold both ends of the strap, and start to get to know, how does this side feel in here? You can wave a little bit side to side. You can keep your knee nice and bent. You can experiment with hammocking your leg into the strap, supported by your hand. How does that feel? Maybe taking left leg to the left. Even experiment a little bit with your foot in there. How does it feel to point toward the strap or flex? Good. And then experiment perhaps coming toward midline. You can switch hands on your strap, open your left hand, and you gaze to the left. You might feel this in the outer IT band of your left leg. I know I do. And then we'll switch it out side to side. So as leg comes to left, opening to the right. And then we switch hands and open to the left. Lovely. I kind of lost count in there, so we might get an extra on this side. That's all good. That's all good. Sometimes the left side gets a little bit left out, so if we give it a little extra, it balances things out. All right, come on out of your strap, and I'll invite you to bring your strap with you as you come down onto your back. Super. So arriving onto your back and allowing yourself just to take a moment to acclimate here. So you can wiggle around, feel your spine on the mat, maybe lift your hips and lower them, ground both of your feet into the mat. Come back to your breath, that anchor, maybe find your ujjayi once again. Beautiful. And we'll do some very similar strap work with the legs here on our back, different relationship to gravity. And I'll invite you to start with your right leg, right foot into the strap, and then sending your leg skyward. And you can take a hold of the strap. You can flex or point through your foot if we didn't do that on the other side or when we were seated. Just feeling your way in. Left leg can absolutely stay bent, or you might experiment with a long left leg this time. So now this will kind of differentiate our seated leg work from our supine leg work a little. And just feeling your way in, you can experiment with range of motion with your leg towards your shoulders, your face. And then with strap in your right hand, you can experiment with range of motion with your right leg out towards the right. And we're not going towards end range here. I'm really going to invite you to take your left hand to your left hip and just allow your right leg to open to maybe even kind of mid-range or just past mid-range. So we're not trying to go toward the floor, just really feeling a natural stopping point for the hip rotation. And then we're going to come up towards center. And just like we did before, switching hands, right hand can go to the right, and then coming just past midline. So we're not going to go into a supine spinal twist. Right hip will stay on the earth and just getting into that IT band on the outer right leg as right foot goes maybe just 3-4 inches past midline. It's very subtle. And as you flex into your foot, draw your toes back towards your shin, you'll probably start to feel some stuff in there. Sending your breath towards sensation. Breath being one of those more unseen forces that supports us. And then we'll switch all of that out. So you can start with right knee bent, left foot into the strap, and just experimenting with how this feels on this side and this shape, relationship to gravity, maybe sending your right leg long. How does this feel? What's happening in here? Maybe drawing your foot a little closer toward your face, but again, we're not pressing past an edge, we're backing away from it just a little, and then opening to the left, and again, we're not aiming to get anywhere. You can keep your right hand on your hip, and as you open to the left, just get to know that mid-range zone. You can back away from the edge, you can experiment. I like sometimes even just have my elbow on the floor, a little bit more support as leg is hammocked into that strap. And then we're going to come up towards midline, and then switching hands, you can take your left hand out and then allowing your leg to come just past midline. Ooh la la, right? So maybe you feel a little something in there. I know I do. And you can, if you've gone past that sensation spot, come back and start over, right? Really flex into your foot. Maybe even kind of point your toes just slightly to the right and then start to veer just past midline. And there's generally a good little pocket of sensation in there into the outer leg, the calf. Send your breath into any place that's calling for you. Ooh. And then back through midline, let it go. We'll put the strap aside. We're going to use it again later. And go ahead and bend through your knees here. And I'll invite you to take your feet off the ground, your hands behind your head, and we'll wake up into the core some here. So inhale here and exhale, elbows toward knees, knees toward elbows. And then inhale, we open up. Now, once again, you get to be a great choice here about the range of motion. So really listening to your low back, to your low belly, and you might open with knees stacked directly over your hips and then draw back together, or you might send your feet further away from midline. And we come back to this clamshell. So elbows and knees kind of really make contact. They press toward each other. And then finding your range of motion as you open on the inhale and exhale, stick it. Good. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and do one more like that. And then to lower down. So knees stacked above hips here. You can even let them be kind of hip width apart. And I'll invite you to take your hands on top of your thighs. And then from here, press your legs into your hands and your hands back into your legs, enough so to light up through your low belly. Just let that begin to wake up in your mind, in your sensation in your belly. Breathe. And then we're going to continue to press legs into hands, hands into legs, but now just focus on the left side as you open right foot, right hand away from each other, and we'll pause brief. Continue to press left leg, left hand, and then let's go ahead and come back. We're going to switch sides, pressing right foot, right knee, right hand, yeah, and then now we free the left. And you can choose that range of motion. Pause for a moment here. Feel a little shake maybe, and then back to center. And then now we're just going to go side to side, opening right and back. Inhale left. Exhale, press. One more time. Inhale, right side. Left. And then let your knees draw inward for a moment and just give yourself maybe a little rotational movement of your legs, your sacrum around the mat as you move your knees in one circle and the other. Good. We'll have one more core awakening here. So invitation is to take your hands behind your head and exhale, elbow to knee. Inhale, center, and exhale the other way. And you're just moving side to side, and you can send the opposite leg long and strong. And maybe bringing a little bit of warmth, which may or may not be welcome depending on the temperature of the air around you. But guess what? We're going to go ahead and really utilize this heat, this tapas as we call it, this internal fire that we cultivate to really empower us through transitional spaces, through change, to greet the moment and to shape our lives. All right, one more time each side. Go ahead and even yourself out. And then give everything a nice long stretch for a moment. And then from here, bending your knees, rock and roll on your spine. And not a shock, we're going to meet in a tabletop. And once you arrive there, how does your body want to move, integrating everything we've done thus far? The breath, the spinal movements, joint rotations, core awakening, and greeting yourself anew. Already something is changing. Allowing yourself to move like your favorite animal, just waking up from a nap. No prescribed movement, no known yoga posture name. And of course, you can stay with your free-form movement, or if you'd like to be guided into some shapes, I'll invite us to first find toes pose, curling the toes under, walking yourself back, Settling hips onto heels, over toes, shoulders over hips, right? And you can find your way in. Now, that's the basics, but then wiggle your way in, right? How do you want to settle in, arrive? Maybe it's a little more spinal movement in this. Maybe it's stillness. Maybe it's I'm lifting up because that's a lot on the soles of my feet. Yeah, loving the soles of your feet. We're not here for too long. Another breath or two. Good. And then coming on out, this time you might tap through the tops of your feet for a moment before settling back down. Many of you have done variations of this with me. This time we're going to open up through the fronts of the ankles. So just lifting maybe one knee, the other. Can stick with that. Or you might experiment with balancing on the fronts of your ankles, lifting both knees together, or a little movement play right there. And then we're out. So come on out, go ahead and curl your toes under again, this time pressing up into a little tight ball, a little tight squat. Sometimes this is referred to as ball of yarn. You can even, in this shape, curl your spine, curl your chin inward. Probably breathing heavy into my mic there. You can also experiment with a little bit of balance in this shape if you want. You can lift your hands off the mat, see what it feels like to balance on your toes. And if you fall on out, no biggie, right? Floor is right there for you. Free up your hands. Good. From here, invitation is to soften your knees down just for a moment to widen your feet so that you can press up this time into a wider squat. It's not a static malasana, more so a invitation just to move around in this little frog squat. You can lift one knee and lower it. You can lift your heels and lower them. You can hunker down, get on in there. You can lift your spine and experiment with a long spine, a little balance once again. Another chance just to get to know your hips, your knees, your ankles. All will come in handy as we come into standing, yeah? Super. And then when you're ready, we'll go ahead and come back into a tabletop. From our tabletop, I'll invite you to take left leg back and give it a few pulses here. Go ahead and let that feel delicious on the back of your leg. And then from here, walking yourself around to the left. So now we have this kind of gate shape in the lower body. And I'll invite you to take your left hand down toward your left leg and then just kind of open up. And then find that again. So it's a little bit of a kind of free opening movement in and out. Let it feel good. There's no right, wrong. You might be rolling up and down or more overhead, like into a supported side plank. Oh, this is a kind of like a little home base for that exploratory movement. So good. And then when you're ready, turning back around to your table with the left leg back, lifting left leg under your body, lifting, inhale, exhale towards your shoulder, inhale, lengthen, under your body, exhale, inhale, and exhale. This time, left foot makes contact with the floor. Now we're in a half squat. Many of you have done this with me before too, and we're just gonna find some spinal movements here, curling down one side, the other way. You can even twist toward your left leg and then you open it up again. We've kind of been visiting in and out of that shape just now. You can expand everything and then come back into contraction. So as you open up, right hand plants, left leg extends, and then curl back in. One more like that if you like. And then we turn it all around again, back into table. And a breath or two, your free form. Just integrating side one. And as we go into side two, right foot back, a little bit of rocking on the toes, greeting your calf. And then turning, so left shin goes back as we turn toward the right leg, and then right hand toward right foot. This is our little home base, and then we're just kind of opening and closing from there. Whatever that means, maybe it's a rolling up and down, maybe it's a rotating out and back. And then when you feel ready, curling back to the front. And then from here, right leg lifts. Exhale under. Inhale, lift. Exhale to the right side. Lift. Under. Lift. And then as right knee comes toward the right foot plants down, here we are. Half squat. Now half squat can be a lot on the knees. So if you need to be up here, if you need to find a little bit of movement in a more lifted up shape, great. Honor your body always, please. You can curl in, you can find some side to side. And maybe you curl toward the right and then open it up. And curl in and open it up. One more. Oh, so good, so good. All right, wherever you are, take your time, stay there longer if you'd like. We meet in a tabletop and just allowing yourself to come back home to yourself, whatever that means. If that's been a lot of movement, coming back home might be pausing in stillness and child's. Really allowing yourself to return to Ujjayi. Return to the quality of mind. Mind riding the breath. Return to intention. Embracing the unknown, held by the unseen. And when you feel ready, if you feel ready, I'll invite you to come into a downward facing dog. And taking your time here, walking it out, maybe bending both knees, hips can go side to side. Whatever your personal arriving ritual is. And then perhaps pausing a few breaths in stillness. And from here, I'll invite us into a little lunge flow here. I'll invite you to take your right leg back and behind, and then perhaps stack your hips here, just allowing yourself to open. You might find some big hip rotations here, right leg around your hip, lengthen, let it feel good. And eventually stepping right foot forward. And if you need some assistance for it to get there, by all means, do whatever you need. And now this is a little bit of free time once again in this initial low lunge. And this is where I love blocks, just coming in and out. So letting yourself lift and lower, let it feel good. And then I'm going to guide us through some movements from here as well. So first part is I'm going to invite you to come a little bit closer with your feet, and with your feet hip width apart, lowering down through your left heel. So now we've got our legs set up for pyramid. In pyramid, it's helpful to have a nice stable sacrum. And this is where I love those blocks, because it allows us to really work with a long spine and find that wide pyramid stance. Wide meaning hip widths apart pyramid stance, rather than standing on a slack line or a balance beam. Yeah, so feeling that support here, and you can explore, if you like, the movement of your spine. Once you've got that stable base, maybe you fold over your right leg. So it's similar to what we were doing with the strap work of exploring the hamstring, the back of the right leg, just a different relationship to gravity. And I'm going to invite you for today to keep your legs just as they are as we transition into a variation of Trikonasana, of triangle. So keeping your pyramid legs, keeping your flat sacrum towards the earth, just open up through your heart towards the left. Just your shoulders open. Maybe your left arm lifts. I like the block once again for this. And so it's a really stable triangle base as we open up through the heart. Okay, come back to your breath. And then so beautiful. Come on down, and we're going to ground into the left hand. Again, nice long spine. You can take right hand to the back of the sacrum and just turn your shoulders and heart toward the right this time. So we're turning toward the front leg, and that range of motion will be smaller. So allow your legs to be strong here. Maybe you lift through the right arm. Coming back to breath. And then slowly lower that down. Go ahead and rebend into your right leg. You can set your hands down on your mat to transition back to downward facing dog. And this is a nice place in downward dog to kind of sense your two legs. And then from here, this transition is to bend your knees enough to walk your hands toward your legs and to come into a forward fold. Another place to really sense the difference between left and right sides. And we'll even ourselves out. Go ahead and walk your hands back forward, downward dog length here. And then inhale, lifting your left leg, maybe opening your hips, and then some movement, hip mobility here. Maybe circular movements in each direction. And then gazing forward, enough to step forward and through. And I'll invite some block-supported lunge flow here. Just getting to know what this side holds for you. I was sharing before that my left shoulder tends to be my tight shoulder. Well, my right hip tends to be my right hip. Not an uncommon pattern, apparently. So get to know, what's your tight hip? As with every practice, let this feel good. Even though I'm giving us some kind of grounded structure for today's movements, I want you to find that mid-range edge and then work in that zone. We're not going for anything extreme here. Let's go ahead and step our feet wide and closer. So feet hip widths or maybe even just slightly wider. You can take that right heel up for a moment and then settle it down, foot at an angle. And then experiment here what happens as you find that long spine. You can even check in with your sacrum for a moment. Experiment with how does it feel to really lengthen out through your whole spine. And with that stable base of your legs, you might experiment with leaning forward over your left leg. Coming back to breath. You might start to feel some movement, even a little trembling, some shaking, some experience in your legs. From here, we're going to start with that variation of a trikonasana, a triangle. So these pyramid legs, right hand towards the sacrum, keeping your hips the same, just opening shoulders to the right. And from there, maybe lifting right arm. Maybe your gaze follows. That doesn't matter, right? Listen to your neck. Sometimes I really like my gaze down even though I'm lifting. Your breath. And we're going to switch this out. Right hand to the block. Left hand to your sacrum. Range of motion might be much smaller here. We're turning towards the left, keeping the sacrum as it is, strong through your legs. And then maybe left arm lifts. As we're just opening the heart space to the left. Your breath. Beautiful. Let's come on back down. This time, invitation is to bend into your left knee enough to step your right foot forward and find your way into a standing forward fold towards the front of your mat. You can use your blocks here. You might get to know the shift that's now happened through the backs of both legs. And then the invitation is to come up to standing. I'll invite you to do so with a long spine. So find that long spine. Check in with your sacrum. Let your legs be nice and strong here. And then pressing down to lift up. Whew. Okay. New relationship to gravity. First time standing. Take a moment to acclimate. What's present for you now? How's your heart? If any dizziness or lightheadedness happened when you made that transition to standing, you can even just place your hands on your hips and really feel your way into your legs. You can wiggle your toes, bounce a little bit if you need, bend your knees. Good. All right, let's come into some sun salutation A. I think a little flow is going to feel good from that very structured work we just did. And I'll invite you to inhale, sweep your arms up, and exhale, forward fold. Inhale for a halfway lift. And exhale, hands plant, stepping back, high plank, pausing here for a moment, feeling that engaged belly that we found before. And exhale your way to the earth, either knees, chest, chin, or slowly lowering down in a long plank. However you get there, taking a moment to arrive, to acclimate, shift your hips side to side, wiggle your shoulders, and we'll find some rolling cobras. You might put your feet together or keep them hip widths apart, hands under your shoulders, and inhale to lift, and exhale to lower. Your choice, how much weight in the hands, how much lift of the heart. And the goal is what it feels like, not what it looks like. You might play around a little bit with the placement of your hands, wider, further back, further forward. Inhale as you lift. Exhale as you lower. One more, just for you. Beautiful. We're transitioning back to downward dog. How do you want to get there? Do you want to move through plank, through table, through child's pose? Eventually meeting downward facing dog. We've been here a few times. What's changing? What's staying the same? What's predictable? Come back to your breath. And then gazing forward, making your way to the front of your mat, however you'd like to get there. Halfway lift. Exhale to fold. Inhale all the way to standing. Exhale, samastitihi. Samastitihi, palm to palm at heart center. A brief pause before round 2 of Sun Salutation A, and maybe a moment for your intention. I love how samastitihi can be translated as a prayer for equal standing. And when we're embracing change in whatever form, embracing our relationship to the unknown, equanimity is a key part of that journey. When you're ready, releasing your hands and inhale, arms up overhead. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands plant, stepping back. High plank, your choice, to the earth for cobra or halfway down chaturanga. Rolling over the toes if you're there. Inhale, upward facing dog. Maybe you're on the earth finding your cobra. Maybe you're in child's pose. All are welcome. We press back, we meet, downward facing dog. And it's your breath. It's like that touchstone, the anchor, especially during times where we just can't see what's coming next. And making your way to the front of your mat. When you are ready, however you'd like to get there, hop, step, pounce. And forward fold, halfway lift, inhale. Folding again. And inhale all the way to standing. Samastitihi. This time, the invitation is to bring your strap with you, and we'll use it for a standing practice, and it's optional. And I'll invite you for a moment just to hang that strap over your right shoulder. Okay, good. And with standing balance, you can always borrow from a wall. If you're going to use a wall, since we're going to start standing on the left foot and have the right foot lifted, we are going to open leg out to the right, so you might want to hold on to something with your left hand, and then we'll switch that all out. So with or without support, remember we all deserve it, allowing yourself to find the balance in your left leg. Let that left leg be strong enough to lift through your right leg. And just like we did on our backs, we're going to start with a static press, pressing right hand into your right thigh as you're pressing your right leg up into your hand. You can just really feel the engagement of the low belly once again. Good. And then from here, and I'm just lowering down to turn to face you again. From here, go ahead and bring your strap around your right foot. And again, it can be a nice, just looping around with the two sides of the strap and take hold with your right hand. Now you can take a nice loose hold here, doesn't matter. So you can stay right here. Beautiful place to stay. You might be holding your foot, that's perfectly fine. Again, I like the length that the strap affords. If you're wanting to kick forward with your right foot, you can do so pressing right foot into the strap. And just experiment with how does that feel. You can keep a little bend through your knee. You might take your left arm up overhead. And then with either knee bent or straight, we're going to open right leg out to the right, and you might be holding onto your wall, or you might send your left arm out to the left as a counterbalance. You can always have your knee nice and bent here. So lots of options. And maybe you take your gaze out towards your left thumb. Good balance practice, good balance challenge. Our eyes are so connected to balance. And come back to the sound of your breath, waking up the inner ear. And then with knee bent or straight, coming back through to center. Last option here, switching strap with the hand, holding onto the strap with your left hand as you send your right arm back and behind. Now, the twist comes into the spine as you turn towards the right, maybe even gazing at your right thumb behind you. If you're holding onto your foot with a strap and you're falling out, simply let go of the strap, right? Playing with balance on the mat is so good for life. All right, come on back through to center. Go ahead and release it all. Shake out through both legs. Wiggle through your hips. Let your voice go. Let your jaw go. Anything that was holding on there unnecessarily that you can let go of between side one and side two. And when you're ready, taking your strap over your left shoulder, let it just be there for now. And we're going to start with that static press. Left leg, left hand, left knee, and give it a press. Waking up through that deep transverse abdominis, deep inner core. Give it a nice firm press. Know that we're not here too long. So let the leg press up, the hand press down, and then let that go. All right, we're going to take our strap from here, and there we go. Allow yourself to loop that strap over your left foot. Now maybe you're holding on to a wall, a couch, a chair with the right hand, and you can stay here with a bent leg, or maybe you extend long. Maybe right arm comes overhead. And then it's back to your breath. You might notice one side's easier to balance on than the other. Very common, good to know. Just like what's your tight shoulder, what's your tight hip, which leg is easier to balance on. And then we'll open up to the side Left leg out. Can again be nice and bent here or lengthened. And just like on the floor, we're not going for like a goal of end range of motion. It can be at a beautiful angle. It doesn't have to be a straight angle out to the side. Maybe your gaze comes towards your right thumb. And then we come back through midline. We switch hands on the strap. Familiar. It was different on our backs, wasn't it? And then this time, left arm comes back, slowly turning your gaze. Maybe you turn it to the side. Maybe you turn it all the way behind. Remember, your legs can be bent. Lots of ways to modify. And then slowly back to center, and then let it all go. You don't have to do that part slow. Throw your strap down. We're done with it. Shake it out. Let that go. It's over. And then I'll invite you to come back towards the front of your mat for a moment. Feet can be nice and hip width apart. It's good to have your blocks ready for where we're going next, so you can place them there if they're not there already. And just before we go back into the next round of movement, we've got one more standing flow and then we're on the earth. Just notice what's present for you here. How's your heart? Are you still connected to your breath? So much of what we do in this world to navigate transitional spaces and the unknown of what's next, what we can't see, is to allow ourselves to be present with our heart and our emotions, to come home safely to ourself. You get to do this right here, right now. It's not just a physical practice of manipulating your body into shapes, but it's very much about awakening to what you're carrying inside. And once you're conscious of that, you can work with it in the world in a much more mindful way. I'll invite you to bend both of your knees here. Again, knees can be hip width if you like. And then finding your way into chair, drawing your arms up overhead. Maybe your gaze lifts towards your fingers for a moment. Inhaling here. Exhale, let it go. And we'll do a few of those. Inhale. A sound. Right. Any of that heaviness, that fear, that constriction, that loss. Letting that go. Greeting yourself as you are, making space for all of it. And then slowing it down, sending your arms back, maybe lifting up onto the balls of your feet, lifting your heels off the mat. A little balance here. Precarious moments, right? Standing on the precipice, and you're okay. Lowering your heels, inhale, let's go ahead and lift up. And exhale, folding forward. And hands to greet your blocks. That's why they're there. From here, invitation to send your left leg back. And pausing for a moment. Block supported airplane. And then slowly bending through your right knee to send your left leg back. And you can check in before you take your hands up to the air. Feet are still hip widths apart or so. And then invitation to lift up for a warrior one, drawing your hands out to the sides, nice and wide, and then forward in front of you. And then lifting through your hands, maybe your gaze lifts as well. Inhale here. Exhale, really settle, sink in, arrive. Continue to contact your breath. And then from here, invitation to open the shape up to a warrior two. And you might need a little footwork, widening your stance or taking your stance a little less hip width in this one. And then from our warrior two, I'm going to invite you to take your back hand forward and make your hands here like you're going to pull back on the bow. So take your left hand and draw that bow back, holding on to the arrow between your two hands, gazing forward at your right thumb. Connect to your breath. Connect to your intention. Feel that tension as you draw the bow back. Inhale here. Exhale here. Inhale, lift up, sending that bow upward as you find a reverse warrior shape. Exhale, let your hands free. Send the bow, send that intention out into the universe. You are shaping the future through that process. And slowly up and around, I invite you to take back heel off of the mat as you launch forward into that halfway lift. Now we're back into this block supported airplane. You can really find your way into this shape. Once again, allowing your hips to be squared toward the earth, just like we did in pyramid. And then we'll open up just toward the right this time, just toward the right, allowing yourself to find a revolved half moon shape. You can even check in with your sacrum. Powerful shape right here. And then lowering right hand back to the block, lowering left foot to meet the right. And finding a forward fold of your choice. You can keep your legs long, you can stay with the blocks, you might reach down, take a hold of your big toes with your peace fingers. You might even slide your palms underneath your toes. We've done a lot today to open up through the back body. Let yourself enjoy it here. And then unwind your hands from your feet in whatever shape you found. And we're going to come right from here, this halfway lift, hands on the blocks, and it's right leg back, right leg back. Pausing for a moment in this block supported halfway lift, one-legged lift. Good. And then stepping back, checking in. Your feet are nice and wide. You can take your arms back by your hips, lifting up for warrior one, arms wide. Taking palms together. And then as you lift your hands, your heart lifts. Now your hands don't have to be behind your head or way up here. They're lifting in a way that your heart can stay open, your gaze can stay lifted. Good. One more breath here. And then let's open the shape up, warrior two. And take a moment just to find the shape before sending right arm forward. And you're gonna pull back on that bow with your right arm. Really feel that tension as you draw the left arm forward. You can lift your thumb and hold your intention right here. That's the arrow in the bow. Come back to your breath. Good, inhale. Exhale. Inhale, lift. Reverse warrior. Exhale, release the arrow. Inhale here. And exhale as you progress forward, lifting through your right heel and launching forward into our standing block-supported airplane, preparing for our twisted half moon, our reverse half moon. And you can start left hand to sacrum, maybe turning the shoulders. Range of motion is small, maybe lifting through your left arm. Beautiful. And returning back, 2 feet on the earth. Shake it out. This time, blocks aside. I'll invite you to come to standing and one more shake if you like, or another moment to pause. This time maybe one hand on your belly, one hand on your heart. What do you sense now? Can you feel your way in to your hips, your legs, your feet? Yeah. When transitional events happen, chosen or not chosen, this connection to body and ground is profound, really is. It helps hold us as we navigate the unknown. Let's go ahead and flow our way to the earth. I'll invite you to draw both arms up. Gaze can follow. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, stepping back to a plank. This time I will invite knees, chest, chin. And settling your hips all the way down to the earth. Once arriving on the earth, you might place your hands by your side and forehead down for a moment. We'll have 2 back body heart openers here and really sensing our way into the back body, the unseen, yeah? First is locust, and I'll invite you for this one just to begin to lift up through your shoulders. Maybe hands come off the mat, maybe feet come off the mat. And come back to breath. One more breath here. And exhale, settling back down, turning left ear onto the mat as you turn head to the right. Soften and let go what can be released. And then head back to center. You can repeat cobra or locust, or if you'd like, we'll come into bow, bending through both knees, taking hold of your ankles or feet, and then kicking into your hands. A few breaths here. And then soften and release. Feet to the earth without slingshotting. Right ear to the mat, turning your head. Maybe you rock your hips a little side to side. And then gently, slowly turning chin to center, hands underneath shoulders. And I'll invite you to press back first into a puppy dog. So coming hips over knees, walking hands forward, and then allowing your heart space to settle toward the mat. You might take your forehead down or your chin down, depending on range of motion in your neck. And then invitation is to breathe into the back side of your heart. It is said in yoga that every chakra has a front and a back. The front is often what we're consciously aware of, what we're sending out to the world, what we give. And the back side is what we don't quite know yet, what we can't yet see, what we are sometimes receiving, and also receiving in terms of support, receiving as a source of love. So breathing into the backside of your heart, perhaps sensing where the back of your heart is connected to the world heart. That helps to hold you as you navigate the unknown. And then maybe settling yourself into a child's pose. Just walking a little further back, maybe knees come wider. And this is truly a beautiful place to stay. You can reside here for the remainder of this practice. If for any reason your body is saying no to that shape, then allowing yourself to shift into a more traditional closing shape, coming onto your back, checking in with any final movements that you might need before softening into stillness. And wherever you are, I invite you to receive these words once again. It's okay that you don't know how it will happen quite yet. The momentum is in place. The river is moving. The charge is alive. This constant unfolding, stay with it. Stay in it. I will invite you to very gently reawaken for the second or third time today, depending on the nature of your day, to gently begin to find your way back up and out of your resting shape. Wiggling fingers, toes, hands around the wrists, feet around the ankles. Lovingly bring with you this new self in the process of unfolding, in the discovery. Welcoming yourself to this world. And perhaps rolling to one side, rocking on your spine if you're making your way to sitting, knowing you can always stay in Savasana longer. And gently bringing palm to palm together at your heart. Thanking yourself for showing up for yourself today. I thank you for showing up as well. And for standing in these unknown places together, the willingness to live in limbo with great gratitude. Namaste.